Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltoalan.com. Again, that's selltoalan.com.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Church, but I know him. I found out later from other places as well through my kids and concerts and
small
stuff.
little interactions here and there.
And here he is. Introduce yourself.
My name is Kevin Dunlap. I am the college and career pastor over at Oro Valley Church in the Nazarene. I've been doing that a little over a year, full time, and it's awesome. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm thanks for having me, by the way. Super excited to be here.
You
Super
notice
excited to
he
be
is
here.
wearing a Green Bay Packer
of course.
hat. I did not wear my Bears gear today. So we're going to get along even though there's that rivalry.
We should. I mean, my wife is a Bears fan, so we make it work.
Okay.
We
yeah,
make it
we
work.
do. Hey, you know what? Let's jump right in. OVCN. I want to talk about that some.
Please.
I've been going there 7-8 years.
Okay.
Love it there. The growth there is unbelievable.
It's insane.
Walk us through what your role is there and what your mission is.
Sure. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So about probably 2.5-ish years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I felt this calling to ministry. So I reached out to Pastor Chris and I said, hey, abridged version, hey, I want a job. I want to work for the church. Hey, nothing's available at the moment. Okay, so fast forward about 1.5 years, Craig reaches out and says, hey, let's go get lunch. Let's go get dinner, something like that. So we did. And it boiled down to, hey, I got a job for you. I'm like, all right, cool. And so at that moment, they created the young adult program, the college program over at OVCN, and that's what I've been doing full time. So my age range, if you will, is 18 to 30, 35. We're still kind of ironing out the little details of what that age range looks like because it can be so vast. But I am their pastor, if you will. Just like the high schoolers have youth pastors and middle school pastors, I am that for the young adult and college age. So I spend my Monday nights hanging out with people a little bit younger than me. Makes me still feel young. I don't feel, yeah.
That's where I really have gotten to know you is at OVCN. And I'm going to plug Oro Valley Church in Nazarene right now. Hard.
Sure.
Man, from cradle to grave, we got you.
We do. We're covered.
We really do.
We have a baby church pastor. We have our elementary school pastor, middle school pastor, high school, and now we have our men's ministers, our women's ministers, and everything in between.
Right.
That's such a good analogy, cradle to grave. I think you nailed it. I love that.
Well, we mentioned a while ago there's going to be an event here next month at Top.
Yes, you were telling me about that.
Of widows, a widows group. Obviously, widows tend to be more of our senior group, and they are heavily involved in a lot of the stuff that the young kids do, which is great to be involved in that. So let's. I want to talk a little more though again about your role.
Sure.
I really want to dig into this. So you're really working with the age group of. What did you say, 18 to 34,
18
35?
to 34, 35, a couple
Which is the
stragglers.
primary group, isn't it? Isn't that what we're really trying to
It's the new generation, if you will. I mean, sure, high schoolers and middle schoolers are the new generation, but I feel like as college students and young adults, it's your chance to really be independent, right? It's your chance to figure out who you are, whose you are, and then where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to be without mom and dad kind of breathing down your neck, which isn't a bad thing. I think parents are so integrated and so important, but then once we get to that college age, you're on your own, you're making dinner by yourself, and it's those little decisions that can turn into big decisions. So my goal is to be the person that I didn't have in college. So I attempted to go to college back in 2012, 2013. I lived up in Prescott for about 4.5 years and ended up failing out of college, surrounded by people who weren't with my same likes in mind, right? Great people, but not people who are leading me closer to Christ. So I want to, my goal in this ministry is to provide that outlet that I needed. Had I found a group where I could be vulnerable, had I found a group where I could lean on people and say, hey, this is what I'm going through right now, and this is what I need, I think it'd be a whole nother story. So my goal is to provide that emptiness, to fill that emptiness that I had when I was in college, if that makes sense.
I've thought about this a lot because of, again, I'm going to use OVCN
Sure.
As kind of an example. We've got pastors, male and female, I might add, that are as young as you, maybe even younger. There may be younger pastors.
I think as of now I'm the youngest, but I'm not sure
and
about that.
we have pastors that are my age,
Sure,
and certainly people that are lay people that are older than I or younger than you. And the cool thing about that is a lot of times you don't need to hear from me as somebody's grandparent, if you will.
Sure.
I need to hear it if I'm a peer from somebody that's dealing with it. I'll give you a good example. Chris Collins, last year when we were doing the 10 Commandments, drew the short straw, I'm sure, and got the adultery message. I said, Chris, you were the only one that could have preached that. Because if it comes from Craig, same words, or some grandpa telling you what not to do, literally.
Sure.
Chris, you're a young man right in the prime of your life. This is way more impactful coming from you than it is from someone that's already. I'm not saying you're not tempted as you get older. That's not what I'm saying. But if you haven't figured it out by our age, you're never going to figure it out.
Sure.
Is that fair enough to say?
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think that is what, I don't say this to toot my own horn, or all glory to God here. He's the one that sends down the Holy Spirit and is giving me these things. But I like to pride myself in that relational ministry. I joke around with Chris and with Craig and say, my least favorite part of the job is sitting behind the computer because I like being with people, right? And I think that is one of my strong suits. I like to think I'm outgoing. I like to think that I'm good at creating those personal relationships because that's how you get it, right? And that is, once again, that is part of my goal is rope these students in, rope these young adults in and say, hey, I know what you're going through, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what you're going through if I don't know what you're going through. And so having that personal experience and being able to actually say, no, I know exactly what you're going through. I've been in your shoes. Here's how I got out of it, or here's what I did to defeat that.
We were talking a little bit off camera, and I'm going to do a shameless plug for your digital church. Do you know the demographics that we're hot in?
I think I saw it. It was about these same ages, right?
It's 18 to 45. We're even going further, which now you would expect that from Instagram, being a younger. But our demographics in this organization, if you will, that's strictly for promoting God's word. That's it. We are a catalyst. Our whole purpose is to provide you resources, comfort, words of encouragement when you're not in church. Get to church, be part of a community, love on each other, do that whole thing. But the other 165 hours a week you're not in church, we want to be your resource. And you know what? And to take it one step further, Kevin, it's young men, which kind of is startling to us. I mean, like heavily, we're talking nearly 60% young men in that, which, yes, we're so grateful that that's the market the demographic we're reaching. Is because incredible. How do you impact change? You have to start, for me, with education, public, private, secular, and religious and spiritual all at the same time. That's how I grew up, by the way. That's how families raise families in the 60s. We don't do that anymore. We've evolved into something that's way less family and community oriented. Part of this is biblical, by the way. It's like people are going to seek wealth. They're going to seek personal satisfaction, personal glory they're replacing God with their own selfish desires. Not that there's anything wrong with money.
I had a high school history teacher, and I'm gonna butcher this quote, but his quote was something along the lines of, people are so used to deferring long-term success and using that instant gratification. And like I said, I kind of messed up that quote, but you get the general idea of it.
Absolutely.
And people are so, is this going to serve me now? oh, I have to wait an hour, or I have to wait a week. Oh, God forbid, I have to wait 2 months. Yeah, no, thanks. I'm sorry, I'm done. But people don't like waiting anymore.
No.
People. I mean, bringing up the Instagram thing, it's no pun intended. It's instant, right? And there's so many things in this world that we push and we cater and we lean on that instantaneous satisfaction, if you will. People don't want to wait anymore. And I think that pushes us away from being patient when it comes to him too, Well,
of course it does. But you know what? It's part of the programming. Think about it. Now, people don't watch TV the way we used to, where we're streaming. And,
Sure.
But I remember as a kid, primarily, TV was 12 minutes, 2 minutes of commercials, 12 minutes, 2 minutes of commercials, and every commercial had a 30 to 60 second solution to every problem you had.
Sure.
You got a headache, take this pill. If you want this, drink this, take that, right? And so we're programmed not to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to, especially in our walk with God.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to get into the specifics at this point, but Tammy and I recorded an introductory video this morning. We're going to come back and do it again because we've tried some new gear, and so we're going to upgrade. But it's a prayer that's 10 years, 10 years in the process.
That's incredible.
And when it's starting to come, it looks like it's coming to fruition. I'd say it's probably going to come to fruition.
Sure.
Totally nothing like we anticipated.
Of course
there were
not.
a few times because we didn't have to do it. It was something we wanted to do. There was some frustrating, like, do we force the issue here a little bit? These people are talking kind of what we want to hear, but I don't feel quite. And when as it's starting to really come together, it's like, we're not even having to force this.
Sure.
This is actually coming to. Matter of fact, I said to the person involved, I'm like, you just write the contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean that. You said it, waiting for things to fall into place. I forgot exactly how you said it, but you said it. Everything fell into place, right? You didn't have to force it,
right? I didn't.
And I compare that to the relationship with my wife, and so many people try to force things, right? And we have dating websites, and I'm not against dating websites. There's some great ones out there to to each their own. This isn't a knock on them, but for me, I wasn't looking for my wife,
Nor was I.
I wasn't looking for her. And it's funny because I have so many young men and some young women as well, but young men who say, hey, Kevin, I want a girlfriend, or hey, I need a girlfriend. I'm like, no, you don't. How do you expect yourself to serve someone else, to love on someone else, to give yourself to someone else when you don't know who you are, right? And I think I'm tangenting a little bit here, but people want these instant relationships. They don't want to put the work into it, like every other aspect of life. Right.
I've told my kids that. Now they're both grown. They're your age. You know them, and I would tell them throughout. First off, I wouldn't. It's easy. Again,
sure. It's easier said than done. Yeah.
It's much easier for you to have these conversations with people, your peers, than me. It's really easy to say when you've been married for as long as I have and go, it'll be okay. The right person's going to show up, etc. But find who you are first. Be selfish for a little bit.
Of course.
I don't mean selfish as in selfish, but find out who you are.
Sure.
And you're only looking for one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, if you look at it this way, so many people are like, oh, so I told someone, I said, you need to embrace your singleness, right? And I kind of wish I didn't say it that way. I needed to clarify more. So they said, oh, so you're telling me I just need to be happy with being single for the rest of my life? I said, no, I'm not saying that. I say, recognize where you're at in life, and recognize that you're great where you're at, right? You are okay at this stage of your life. You don't need anyone else. Right? There's a huge difference between that and, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. Might as well. And even if you are called the single life, that's great too. Right?
I know a few people that are my age and they've never married.
And kudos
I'm
to
sure
them, right?
I'm sure they probably at points knowing who they are and having. There's some like myths but the reality is that's what they were. I know the one person in particular, real close to me. That's what should have. The outcome is what probably should have happened.
Sure.
I'm not playing God, by the way. But it just looks like the results of what we got out of this one person's life was probably better because they had remained single. I've got a line. I've used this for a long time. There are worse things in life than being alone, and one's being with the wrong person.
Sure. Sure.
And how many people
Sure.
do you see get out of a relationship either through a divorce or they break up if they weren't married, and 60 days or 30 days they're in another relationship? Well, I'm like, you don't even know.
No,
At
you're
this
not breathing.
point, you're chasing the chase. Come
Sure.
on.
Sure. It's a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
It's no, I agree. It's I tell people this all the time, and when I was in their shoes, I hated hearing this. Well, one thing is I guess there's a couple things, but one of them was you need to stop looking because it'll happen. Oh, I hate that, Kevin. Why do you say that to me? Or, I can go on and on about that, but it's interesting. Like you said, you and I have very different lenses on this, right? I've been married. My wife and I'll be celebrating 2 years on December 31st. Thank you. We're super excited about that. And your lens is very different, right? Like,
I've got 32 years.
Yeah,
you got 2.
There you
I've
go.
got 32.
You got 30 on me, but that I think too is so important because you can use that and teach me. You can use that and teach other people too. But at the same time, so many people aren't willing to listen, right? They aren't willing to say, Clint, I'm using your own words here. He's just old, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not me.
Yeah.
Right. But who were you 32 years ago? Who were you, 40 years ago?
Right.
Right. And so I don't know. It's unfortunate how much people focus their identity on other things and not themselves.
I've even told people that I like and really care about.
Sure.
Because I like and care about everybody until you give me a reason not to.
Sure,
and I still probably do.
Yeah.
But I could just get in your head for a minute. But again, this is the old Clint. This isn't the 30-year-old
Sure,
Clint. This
sure.
is the 65-year-old Clint.
Sure.
If I could get in your head for 30 seconds, I'd fix that.
Yeah.
Because I'd just take this and switch. We wouldn't concern ourselves
Sure,
with this.
sure.
And by the way, I wasn't looking for my wife when I found her.
No.
And if I was, I wouldn't have found her where I found her. I'm not getting into that. But here we are 32 years later.
Praise God.
And
that's
you know
awesome.
what? I will tell you, I knew almost, and I was 33 years old.
Okay.
I kind of knew.
Oh, when you know,
Isn't that crazy?
Many times I've heard that, but it's so real. When you know.
We weren't from the same location. I was just passing through and met this lady, and we had lunch, and it was good, and I moved on, and I literally called her before the end of the week, and I said, hey, this is not like me. I'd never used it before again. Hey, I was calling from Portland, Oregon. I was in Oregon. She was in Utah. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing for like the next 40 years? And now we're pushing 40. And she's like, are we going to extend that? Or
that's awesome. Yeah, there's no end to that.
Yeah, no. I'll sign on for another 40 if I need
That's
to.
awesome.
I won't make the second 40. I might make the first.
Hey, who knows? God's got a plan.
I don't want to. I want to talk to you about a couple other things real quick.
Please.
I want to talk, but I could talk this forever, and we're going to talk some more.
Yeah.
I'm already inviting you back.
Let me know.
I need you to be a part of what you're already a part, but I need you to.
Sure.
Where'd you grow up? You grew up here?
Tucson. Grew up Tucson, Arizona. Born and raised. Been in Arizona
Where'd you
my
go to
whole
school?
life.
Where'd
So
you
I
go to
went to St. Peter and Paul from kindergarten through 7th grade. 8th grade through high school, I went to Immaculate Heart High School.
Okay.
Very, very blessed with an incredible education.
Uh-huh.
I was very blessed. I blame that in a good way on where I am today. Without that biblical foundation, without having gone to that Christian school my whole life, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Very fortunate to have had that education. Graduated high school, like I said, tried to go to college up in Prescott, went to Yavapai for a little bit. Found that hole in my heart, found I was missing something, came back to Tucson in 2016, but been in Arizona my whole life, born and raised.
How'd you meet my daughter? Did you meet her through Megan?
I met her through Megan.
Shout out to Megan.
So let's see. So a friend of mine, I'm trying to think, how did this all connect? So a good friend of mine, Chris, her and Megan, I think, taught together at one of the preschools, and I was over at Chris's for a party, and then we all kind of became friends.
And then was Denise Cooley in that mix as well?
No, so Denise and my wife taught in the same classroom. So that's how I met Denise. So small world, even smaller, right? So my wife was the head teacher, and then Denise was one of the aides in the classroom, as was I. So that's another story. That's how I met my wife.
And
But
I've known the Coolies for
yeah,
I don't know,
great people.
8, 9, 10 years.
They're great people.
A long time.
he owns he has a mechanic
He
shop right down the road.
He did some work for me.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Week.
Patrick's awesome. Great family right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we knew the Coolies. But yeah, so small world, even
You know
smaller. It's
what?
crazy how
I've been
little
here.
connections.
I've been in Marana. I've been in Arizona since '88, but I've been in Marana since '02.
Okay.
And I've got a line. The Mayor Ed, I have him all the time. He was
I
telling
saw
somebody the other day,
one of those
he's like,
podcasts.
yeah, Clint lives in Marana. He sleeps in Oro Valley.
Oh, there you go.
And so actually, Craig and Chris
Mhm.
live in my backyard.
Oh, that's funny.
And I remind him of it fairly. I should ask him about my sunset last night.
Yeah. Oh my.
Because
goodness,
when that
that's gorgeous.
sunset,
That's
incredible.
beautiful. Nothing better than an Arizona sunset, and you can quote me on that.
Wow.
I'll hold that.
I said something. I was crossing through the kitchen. I said something to Tammy, my wife. I said, "Hey, check that sunset." She's like, "Yeah, I just saw it like 3 or 4 minutes ago." And I'm like, "You didn't
need
see
to look
this,
at
or
it
you would have
again."
called me in here." But
Yeah.
it was the sunsets here are phenomenal.
Oh, they are. They are.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Hey, I'm gonna jump in here real quick
Yeah,
because we're
please.
gonna transition. We're gonna do something here at Now You Know that we've never done before.
Here we go. I'm
this
your
is-
guinea pig today.
and we talked about this. It kind of came to me. I said, when David and I discussed you coming in, we don't do a lot of heavy we want to talk to people. We don't, I mean, if we've got an agenda, but I said, David, let's try something when Kevin comes in because I think you're flexible. I said, let me do a little bit of work, God's work in your case. Let's do a little bit about that. And then I want to bring him in and talk about some other stuff that's near and dear to your heart and
Sure.
near and dear to his heart. And so I don't want to jump into that. But I want to thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I
And
appreciate
I'm
this
inviting you
opportunity.
back not only for Now You Know, but part of your digital church.
Please.
Come prepared to throw us down some heavy
Sure.
paper.
Whatever you need me to say.
Message.
I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Clint.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank
you,
you,
buddy.
Kevin.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
He does way more than I deserve. I'll
Oh.
tell you that.
He knows what he's doing.
Hey, you know the drill by now, everybody. Live the Dream Media, social media, digital networking, Copper Creek Cookies, sell to Allen. Who am I forgetting, David? Quality Lube and Tube. Local. Check out Local Marana. All the things local are on Local Marana. You got anything else for me, David? Okay. A big fat zero there. I'm keeping David's seat warm. He's going to be out here in a minute. You guys can get to talk about all the really cool stuff going on in
I'm
your
ready.
world.
I'm ready to
Thanks,
talk about
guys.
that.
Thanks for listening.